Well, as we heard a few minutes ago from Yolanda in Tel Aviv, tens of thousands of Israeli protesters gathered on Thursday night demanding an end to the war in Gaza and the return of hostages held by Hamas. Amongst the crowd were more than 300 Israeli soldiers who've signed a letter demanding a ceasefire deal. Many protesters were also calling for the resignation of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Let's speak to Dr. Nimrod Goren. He's the president and founder of the Mitvim Institute, an Israeli policy think tank. He was at the protest in Tel Aviv yesterday. Welcome to you. Thanks very much for being with us. What's your sense of what impact, yes, another protest, yes, a large one, a significant one, the fact that there were Israeli soldiers there, what's your sense of what difference this could make?
It was indeed one of the largest protests that we had in the last period of time. Israelis are regularly going to the streets to voice the opposition to where things are going in our society. But the protest also reflects a majority within the Israeli public, a very solid majority that wants to see the war end for the sake of hostage return. There is more and more acknowledgement of the internal societal price that Israel is paying for the continuation of the war. And it was reflected in yesterday's speakers at the protest. It was a lot about the hostages, but not only. We had people, parents of soldiers who were injured, mothers of soldiers who were fighting, families of soldiers who had died. So the intensity of the damage that different parts of the Israeli society are suffering from the war are leading to frustration, to a hope that this deal, this ceasefire deal, this end of war should already happen, but a lack of trust in the capacity or willingness of the current Israeli leadership to actually go there, and a disappointment perhaps from the US president that is not putting all his pressure to end the war now, as he did in ending the war with Iran just a couple of weeks ago.
And is there any sense that the Prime Minister and those in his coalition are listening, are willing to shift their position and bring this conflict to an end?
Public protest on its own will not change the ideological position of this coalition. The coalition is the most far-right one that Israel had. I think Netanyahu indicated that he is open to all kind of temporary ceasefire deals, like the one we had in January until March of this year, but he's opposing the end of the war, and I think this has not changed. Perhaps the only time in which something could change because of, again, political consideration, not security one, will be when the Israeli elections are coming near, and then electoral consideration of the Prime Minister perhaps wanting to be wrapping up the hostage issue by eventually signing a deal. Maybe then it could happen. Currently, I don't see willingness by the current coalition to truly end the war in Gaza. It doesn't mean that some sort of a deal that is currently on the table cannot still be achieved.
We've heard over the past week with this coalition of nations from around the world condemning Israel and its actions in Gaza, this idea that the actions of Israel are causing significant reputational damage for the country. Do you agree with that? And again, do you think that that cuts through in any way with Benjamin Netanyahu?
We definitely feel that as average Israelis in our personal experiences, especially those who are interacting with the international community, who are engaging with partners from other countries. But on the state level, we must say that the key strategic relations that Israel has in the Middle East, in Europe, and especially in the US, are continuing. So the key interests are still at play. And for most Israelis, the country that is important is the US. And with Trump in office, the mainstream Israeli will feel that Israel is safeguarded from that, and that other countries will eventually, beyond all kind of symbolic acts, prioritize their interest in their specific bilateral cooperation with Israel over their morality and values. So I think that's here to stay to a certain extent, but the gap between how countries and governments treat Israel and how publics in their societies are treating Israelis, I think that's changing, and that will probably increase and will cast more price again on average people, like the war often does. It's not about the leaders who are paying the price, it's the people on the ground on both sides, the Palestinians, the Israelis, and that increases by the day.
Dr. Nimrod Goren, very interesting to get your thoughts. Thank you. Well, photographer